Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Boring DAO podcast. For today's episode, we have been talking to Tyler from Strangelove Ventures. Strangelove is a VC fund that's focused on the Cosmos ecosystem, and it was a very interesting interview because Tyler has been explaining to us how they come up with an investment thesis, like how they find the good projects, how they realize which projects are worth investing in, and then how they manage their funds once they got them, right? So if you wanted to know how the pros are managing their crypto portfolios, this is the perfect opportunity to learn that. And then we've also been talking about more than just money, because Strangelove is doing a lot more for those projects than just funding them. They're also helping them a lot. So he has been explaining what they're doing to help those projects, how they're helping the entire Cosmos ecosystem to grow. And then we have also been talking about some narratives and some cool stuff that might be happening in the Cosmos ecosystem. So a lot to come. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's go. Welcome to today's episode. For today, we are sitting here again with Rahul, and we have Tyler from Strangelove Ventures. Hi, Tyler. Thank you so much for taking the time. I would say just introduce yourself, tell the audience real quick who you are, what you're doing, and what Strangelove is.
Hi, Lucas. Well, thanks for having me. So I'm Tyler Schmidt. By trade, I'm a user experience designer, and that's generally how I like to start. I really enjoy solving design-related problems, and that's one of my favorite things I like to do. But these days, I'm also the business lead at Strangelove. I work there with my partner, Jack, who's the technical lead, and I handle oversight on all of our business operations, including the fund and watching business oversight on the lab. Interesting thing about Strangelove is a venture firm that builds alongside the companies and technologies we invest in. That's sort of our mantra. So we do a lot of specific investing, very strategic investing, as opposed to trying to fill out an order book. And then on top of that, we do a lot of lab work. The thing that I think we're most proud about is our lab. We really enjoy it, and we do a lot of development work on various chains. Primarily right now, we're doing a lot of work on the Cosmos Hub, and we're shipping a lot of really interesting software. So I like to say that we truly are a lab that builds right next to the things that we're investing in. So these tokens that we're investing in, I know this is a Cosmos Hub theme or Cosmos ecosystem themed podcast. So we are investing in all of these tokens. We're building alongside these tokens as well. Just look to what we're working on Lens right now, an indexer for various Cosmos ecosystem protocols. But yeah, Strangelove is a venture firm, and we're doing a lot more than just user experience design now. So it's a really exciting time.
Got it. When you do partner with a project, what's your criteria? What do you look for when you partner with a development team?
Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting question because, you could give a lot of answers like, oh, well, I look for this metric, and oh, well, I look for this thing. But I just don't think that that's truly how the world works. I think a lot of the technologies and companies that we invest in are due to our position in the market and who our network is. We are a human ecosystem. And a lot of the investment that we do is based on the human network that we have presented to us. And we are very fortunate to be working in the Cosmos ecosystem, such a wide open and welcoming ecosystem. But within that, we make our selection a lot based on the personalities that come to play. So when we're looking for a partner, we're usually looking for someone that we already know. Strangelove, thanks to Jack, has been in the Cosmos ecosystem basically since its inception. So we know most of the key players in this ecosystem, and we already have a good idea of what we're looking for when we go to partner with someone. So it's not like we have that many cold calls anymore. It's more that we usually have someone that we know in the ecosystem that's doing something interesting that reaches out to us and says, hey, we'd really love to partner with you. We're looking for X, Y, or Z. Let's go ahead and have a meeting. So it's not like we are strategically sitting there saying we're going to only invest in shielded ZK snarks protocols. I think, and this is getting into another thing that I want to discuss, which is like our investment thesis, you know? So we aren't just looking at IBC addressable protocols. That's absolutely what the focus is of our fund. But it's also, what is the relationship that we have to these people? So I look to a partner like Axelar. We're currently working with Axelar as a partner, as both an advisor. We are advising them on their go-to-market. We are investing in them, investing in their token directly, and we're running validators on their network. And then we're actually building with them. We have a backlog of really interesting projects that we're going to be coming to bear that are more user-friendly, user-facing products that are really interesting. So we have a full suite of being an investor, being an advisor, and being a builder with this partner. And it's a situation where, okay, we can do all three of these things. That's really interesting. And we like the technology. We think that technology is going to succeed. So having that sort of cohesive, all-encompassing kind of relationship is what Strangelove is trying to do. So when we partner with someone, we look for, can we provide maximum value in a crypto native way? You know, we're not just sitting here saying, I just want to come in and bring you institutional capital and you guys get a 2 and 20 carry and you know, all those other things that come with traditional capital. We come in saying, hey, we're crypto natives working in the Cosmos ecosystem, and we want to help you, introduce you to the right people, you know, help you with your protocol and help you with your go-to-market. So I think we just have a different offering than what a traditional venture capital firm would. And, you know, I now see that there are other VCs out there doing something similar, but I'd like to think that we are good actors in this space, doing what we can to find good partners. So to wrap that up, it's really about the relationships. You know, we take relationships very seriously, and that's really what it comes down to.
Awesome. Yeah, and I really like to hear what you're all doing, like not only providing money, but actually providing much more value to the to your partners than just the monetary value that a VC firm can usually provide. What I'm curious though is, when you're talking about the you're helping them building, how do we have to imagine that? So do you have a couple of programmers, developers that you have employed, and they just get sent to those projects and integrate in those teams? Or is it more that you're building applications on top of the technology that your partner is building?
That's a great question. So we actually have situations where both of those things are happening. So we have situations where, let's say we have a developer that's not comfortable being a sovereign individual fully. I just only develop on open source protocols and I get crypto. Like, you know, like that's really challenging for a lot of people that want a more stable lifestyle. What Strangelove offers is a job and you know, a set of benefits, healthcare, things that people really care about in the United States. So we're able to be that W-2 employer inside of the United States for a lot of people that aren't ready to make that jump to being a full independent developer actor. So within that world, we have people that go on and get fully integrated into a project. So we have some developers, front-end JavaScript developers that are working on DAO right now. And they're doing a great job on a really exciting design sprint for a new set of features on DAO. And that's one where we just letting them loose, integrating them in the team and helping them out in however we can. We also have situations like one with Axelar, where it's more of a technology consulting relationship. Now, I have experience in technology consulting from my previous life, and we have some people on staff that can help us do scoping exercises, create statements of work, do all of that like necessary sort of just logistical work that's necessary to build projects independently. So we have people scoping for us. We get those people set up and we just take on projects in the same way like a technology consultant for hire would. So that's what we're doing with Axelar, where they're just saying, here's a brief, go ahead and knock it out, and we're taking it on. And that also works great. But I think one of the things to talk about with Strangelove's business organization here is that we follow this strategy that America followed during the arms race in the 1950s and 60s called the multi-armed bandit. The multi-armed bandit is basically trying to take on any and every opportunity around a problem in order to solve that problem. So let's say that I want to, help out DAO. We want to help out DAO. So we're going to just throw staff in there and get a feedback, get cryptocurrency in return for staffing that. Or we could say we want to do a total project and scope that out in more detail. So any kind of deal that we could possibly set up, we are generally open to setting up when it comes to the software development side of our business.
Excellent. Shifting gears a little bit on the Cosmos ecosystem, in your opinion, what do you see as the immediate needs to aid the continued growth and adoption of the ecosystem, whether it's dApps or tooling? So for me personally, I would like to see more structured products or like ability to trade perps, and as well as a GameFi ecosystem. I think dApps that are gaming in nature would certainly help adoption as well. So I think we're still early in Cosmos, where you have a lot of new layer ones coming out. But yeah, in my opinion, I think more DeFi and GameFi projects should help adoption. But curious to hear your thoughts, and maybe even like Evmos bringing over additional EVM developers may also help.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a great question, and there are so many things that we can do to grow adoption on the hub. I think a simple way to talk about this is just that we have a marketing problem. There is no core entity that is doing marketing and adoption for these kind of protocols. And that doesn't just mean like Google AdWords or like big splashy rich media banner ads. That means developer evangelization, community work, just creating a larger, we already have a big community, but having more hackathons, more things to bring up the development community. So just seeing more marketing is one thing that I think is an easy way to sort of get the name out there. But then you look at like what other layer ones are doing, and they're starting to eat our lunch. I'm close with the Near Protocol folks, and Near Protocol is doing a really good job of getting GameFi off the ground. They have a number of projects that are built in Unity that look like professional games now, not necessarily just indie games. I mean, they also have a lot that look just like indie games, but they're basically reaching the point where they're moving from games that look and feel like indie games to games that look and feel like production, like not necessarily AAA, but AA production games. So the fidelity of the GameFi is growing on other chains. And I see that happening in Cosmos, but I see it happening a little bit slower. So I'd love to see a push into GameFi. I think that might help growth, but there's just so much to happen. Like, just look at Mappa Zones. We have so much TVL in the space that I think pushing financial products is definitely another way to increase adoption. So I love GameFi, and I also love financial products. They're two of my favorite things. So you're really touching on things that I think will be successful for this protocol, but let's just keep it going. So another point here is just another piece about Strangelove's investment thesis. We really like the intersection of crypto and gaming. Gaming has been one of the largest growth industries outside of crypto for a number of years, in fact, a number of decades. And gaming is going to continue to grow as more people get, mobile phones, or just people get more access to gaming. So I see that as a consistent growth industry on top of crypto, and a path forward for play to earn, like the people earning on Axie Infinity. I think there's going to be more and more games that are play to earn. It's just a matter of time before one breaks through and becomes a killer app, because really what we need is that one killer game to sort of break through adoption and move people from the traditional gaming world into the GameFi world.
Well, while we're still on the topic of Strangelove's investment thesis, I want to get your take on, there seems to be a narrative around the VC space being really crowded. And I know select VCs have been able to differentiate themselves. For example, like Strangelove has builders, and they have the ability to build alongside projects, right? Yeah. So capital is obviously a commodity, but I wanted your opinion on what you think about adding a component of like liquid trading. You see that on CT now, where influencers like Kobe are talking about, the most gains in the short to medium term will likely be in liquid trading. Is that something that Strangelove may potentially build out down the line, have a component of liquid trading? Just thinking from like an LP's perspective, right? Of course, you guys are very distinguished in the actual VC world.
What do you mean by liquid trading exactly?
So like swing trading based on like macro events, like, for example, osmosis went from $9 to $4 right now, and maybe it'll go back to its all-time high, and just sort of like gauging the sentiment in the ecosystem. For example, like Juno had all that drama. Someone can say, all right, it doesn't look great, we should probably sell, and then get back in earlier when this sort of storm dies down.
Yeah. So there's a lot to this. We've researched all kinds of trading solutions at Strangelove. Strangelove has active traders on staff. We have people that are managing our portfolio to maximize their gains. Now, how we do that is basically we read a lot of technicals. So we do a lot of technical analysis. We also do a lot of macro analysis and a lot of qualitative analysis. So reading market sentiment and things of that nature. We take all that together into what our long-term strategy is. But I think that having swing trading be your only strategy is a fool's errand, and you can really hurt yourself. So we make sure that a lot of our strategy is buy and hold. We are invested in tokens for the long run. We are crypto native, and we plan on staking our tokens and holding them as many investors would in the space. And that's what we do with the majority of our tokens, put them into liquidity pooling positions or other yield farming positions. So, we do all of that with it. We don't actually do as much active trading as you would think. And that's partially because at our scale, we don't want to mess up the markets. We don't want to gamify the markets in any way. We want to let them naturally progress. So we don't swing trade as much as you think.
Got it.
Well, maybe what I'd be interested here, and I think that's something that a lot of retail investors struggle with, is taking profits when you make a good investment. What's your strategy there? How and when does Strangelove take profits on their investments?
This is a great question. Okay. So Strangelove cares about maintaining our operating capital. So we want to make sure that we have enough operating capitals to survive and keep building. We're primarily interested in building. So most of that holdings we maintain in crypto as opposed to in cash. So when do we sell? Strangelove sells in order to maintain our tax liability. So really, we are a United States-based company. Therefore, we have a very high tax liability compared to other investors globally. So with that, we make sure that we are absolutely in compliance with local laws. We do an extremely good job of complying with local regulation on this, and we're relatively up to date. So we have to sell in order to pay our tax burden. And if that's a bit of alpha, I'm not going to tell you when we sell, but that's primarily the only reason that we do any kind of selling whatsoever. We are a long-term investor in this space. We believe it's going to have success for 20 plus years. So we are in a long-term buy and hold position for most of our crypto, but we are burdened with tax liability. And that really pushes most of our sell side economics.
Got it. Going back to the Cosmos ecosystem, you see a lot of new layer ones coming out. Like, for example, you got Archway and Saga in the pipeline, right? Do you think at some point this leads to cannibalism? For example, other ecosystems like Solana, AVAX, they can all align on, or Ethereum, for example, being the hard money of their network, right? It's not the case with Atom and Cosmos. So what are your thoughts on sort of like new layer ones coming out, a lot of them building the same primitives?
Well, don't you think that we're working towards a multi-coin future? So I think that Cosmos has always been a thesis that we're going to see thousands and thousands of these tokens. And with that comes diversity. And if we look at natural ecology, we know that diversity is a really good thing. So I just harken back to when Jack and I were living together in the Mission District in San Francisco. And this is, let's say, 2014, 2015. We were going to parties and hanging out and talking about crypto, like lots of people were at that time. And there was constantly that argument, oh, well, is Bitcoin going to be the dominant coin? Is it going to follow power laws that are going to win the situation, win the space? Well, I mean, it kind of did, but it also kind of didn't. And we were of the ilk, there's going to be thousands of these things. It's so easy to spin up a token that it's inevitable that there's going to be thousands of these. And Cosmos has a thesis that backs and supports having many, many different chains and individual chains for individual apps. So for me, I don't really worry about cannibalism. I think, some chains may be more successful than others. Yes, absolutely. But I'd like to see a big diversity in the offerings come to bear. And I like certain things. Like I really like Cosmos L1s. I think Cosmos L1s is a pretty good smart contracting language. So do I have preferences? Sure. But can other people have other preferences that aren't mine? Absolutely. And that's one of the things I really like about the Cosmos ecosystem is we can provide discourse and disagreement and still have interoperability. And that's just a really big value that I think Cosmos brings to crypto.
Yeah. Now, on the topic of multiple app chains, from an enterprise perspective, let's say you have a company like Disney that wants to launch their own token. What would you sort of say to them about why they should choose Cosmos and what are the benefits? Maybe like what are the cons? And the reason why you might not be seeing that now again is maybe what you alluded to before was the marketing problem. But at least from the tech standpoint, like if you were talking to like a Disney CEO and they wanted to launch their own blockchain, what would you tell them about Cosmos?
Well, I'd say that Cosmos is fantastic. It has the ability to have an easy go light client that connects you from one chain to other chains. I'd say the map, we have one of the highest sets of TVL available. If you want to interact with low fees, we can interact here with low fees. Latency is incredibly low on chain, so transaction speed is incredibly high. There's all kinds of things to say. It's open source, that's another good one. I think the consensus algorithm is a big piece of it. I think people are really reserved to go for chains that have a high power draw. I highly doubt that Disney would go with Ethereum today if they were to pick a chain. So it makes it a lot easier for you to recommend something like Cosmos to them. Also, like, what's it going to cost them? It's going to cost them developers that understand the language, and that's about it. It's a free protocol.
Yeah, and I'm sure features like shared security will also help the onboarding process in terms of reducing that burden of bootstrapping a validator setting. Yeah.
Shared security is another big thing that I would lead to there. But of course, in progress at the moment.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back real quick to the question of the different layer ones that we had, and that's because I think the history in Cosmos, especially in the community, has shown that we have all those different primitives that kind of do the same, be it the layer ones, or we also had the osmosis versus SIF chain beef that was going on Twitter at some point. So we have this kind of PvP mentality between the projects. They are in Cosmos doing the same, so they're competing within. Whereas when you look at other ecosystems that, let's say AVAX again, that are under the leadership of one coin, they're kind of all, it feels more like they're all pushing in the same direction and getting the entire ecosystem forward because they all kind of have a shared interest. So do you think this PvP mentality and the dramas that we see in Cosmos, they are a problem, or do you think this is a sign that we have a nice and healthy decentralized ecosystem where people kind of get their own opinions in? So where do you stand there?
Yeah. So I lean towards the latter side there, that this is actually a healthy ecosystem that allows for discourse. I mean, the Cosmos Hub is still printing blocks, and it's still doing a good job at that. I see this as a resilience of the network. We're looking at lots of debate across Cosmos Hub and many of the other chains. And these chains are still working. They're still resilient. So I see this as like other chains that are driving in one direction. Sure, that's great. But what happens when someone disagrees and decides to fork the chain? That just all these chains are going to reach a point of scale where they're going to run into the same conflicts that Cosmos does. It's going to happen. It's an inevitability. I think that Cosmos has just accepted these things as parts of human nature, that we're going to have disagreements. We're going to have people that want different preferences on their chain. Oh, I want a different block height. Okay. Or a different mempool size, a classic one. But there's all kinds of things to disagree upon. And Cosmos is set up well for us to disagree and still have that interoperability. IBC is still going to work on all of these chains. So as long as we can agree on the protocol layer, then the rest of it we can disagree upon and work on stuff that best meets our preferences. So I see it as a strength of our ecosystem that everything can interoperate with itself. And I think we're doing great. People are going to disagree. This is like, we built the foundations at a core where people can agree on something, transmitting of units. We can transmit units. Great. Everyone's going to agree upon that. So I see it as a strength.
But don't you feel it hurts the marketing side or the growth of Cosmos a little bit? Because you have been just saying how well Cosmos is producing blocks, and then on the other hand, we have Solana that was down a bunch of times just this year already. But then if you look at the growth, Solana had a much quicker growth of the ecosystem, I'd say, over the last year, maybe because of exactly that reason, right?
Well, there's a big difference between the underlying tech and the network effect of a protocol. So this is a really interesting point because it's something that I used to discount more than I should. Network effects and network power is another form of power that exists in the modern era. We used to have hard power and soft power, and that was, military infrastructure is hard power and soft power is political influence and diplomacy. And that was all we had. Then in the 90s and in the 2000s, we got network effects and we got network power. And we got what we see now with Facebook and Twitter and all these social media applications and the ability for people to discuss things ad nauseum online. We have this other form of power now. That was something that I discounted heavily when it came to something like Ethereum, where we looked at, I think, a compare and contrast between Cosmos and Ethereum is excellent because Ethereum, doesn't scale. It's a single blockchain that everything rolls up to. Okay, so let's see, I lost my train of thought there, but basically, Ethereum doesn't scale well, but it has an excellent network effect being first to market. So we were short on Ethereum in the 2017s and 2018s. We didn't think it was going to scale. And look, it's slow and it has very high transaction fees. And it's not doing that well in terms of its actual operation, but people are still using it because it got so successful and it did follow some of those power laws that we've been talking about. So it had a network effect.
Sorry. I was going to say, I think your point on the fact that people are allowed to come in and disagree and then stand up their own app chain, but still be interoperable is like the best value proposition that Cosmos has. Because like you said, there's going to be a lot of forks for these monolithic chains that eventually the community disagrees on something. And then it's like, you got to start an entire new state machine and then fight over, bringing over the community. And so yeah, I never thought about it that way, but that's probably in my mind, the best value prop for the Cosmos tech stack, because you can build, smart contracts and automate everything, but you can't take the human nature out of the system, right? And that's what Cosmos accounts for. So I look at it as like, it's a free open market, and may the best chain win, right? So yeah, I think that's an excellent point you made.
Yeah, exactly.
But then going back to what you're saying about the soft power, like the network effect would then kind of be the antithesis of this, right? Because in the end, you don't need to have the best chain. You need to have, if you have the best network effect, you can, with an inferior chain, beat the superior chain, right?
And we've seen that happen many times. So, we're currently in a situation where, what's going to improve the growth of the Cosmos ecosystem? And I say marketing, because marketing is going to support that network effect. So what can we do to increase the network effect of Cosmos is really the thing that we can do to drive value to the hub. Value meaning TVL, right? Total value inside of our ecosystem. So I think network effects is one thing. The other thing that I believe is strongly is providing user-facing apps and user-facing experiences. So going back to like what I started with, I'm a user experience designer. I believe in providing utility to end users. So not just developers, not just us as high experience users, but your grandma. How do we make crypto more accessible for everyone? Because if we don't make crypto accessible for everyone, we can't win. So one of the things that I think is important for increasing network effects is building more dApps, more things that people can use. So that's why one thing that we're working on at Strangelove that I'm happy to share with you guys now is that we are currently working on a wallet that will work on a 1000x chains. So we're working on something that will be one place to store all of your interoperable tokens in a single place. And that's because we think that there are still efficiencies to be gained and benefits to be had from designing our own wallet experience. We think the usability can be improved.
Excellent. What are your thoughts on institutional capital entering Cosmos? I mean, so obviously Strangelove is a VC, but it's backed by a Cosmos OG developer and Jack Samplin, right? So you guys are Cosmos natives, but what are your thoughts on like larger funds that are not crypto native and they want to get exposure, and they look at Cosmos? Overall, like, have you seen more institutional capital enter Cosmos? I think it's been sort of late in terms of market awareness. Like Polkadot, Solana, Avalanche has gotten some of the attention early on, and Cosmos has really come into its own the last few months. But do you think there's still a need for more institutional capital? And what are your thoughts on institutional capital just coming in and helping with adoption? And maybe that sort of ties into the marketing thing where, you had SBF sort of backing Solana, and Solana really took off after that. So yeah.
No, I think it's great for the ecosystem. People always have these worries and fears about institutional money coming in, but they're just, I think a lot of them, the people that are making these decisions are actually just excited about the technology. A lot of people that are behind institutional money aren't necessarily just chasing a quick return. Most of these people are saying, I want to look at a crypto project where I can park and hold tokens for a long period of time. So institutional capital to me is looking to buy and hold massive quantities of Atom and stake it, and then do whatever the hell they want to do with it. So I look at institutional capital as a benefit to the ecosystem and a way to bring in more lending protocols or whatever the hell the institutional capital is interested in building in the space. They're going to do it on a Cosmos chain. So I'm all for it. And we've had meetings with a number of institutional investors. And I'll just say that they all feel like, oh, this is a really cool ecosystem. The internet of blockchains. This is a really exciting idea. Oh my God, you guys can actually scale. This is amazing. We've been caught up in Ethereum world for so long. This is a breath of fresh air. So that's a lot of what we hear inside of our deal flow. So, I think that the institutional money, in my opinion, is actually looking at the same stuff that we are.
Excellent. Yeah.
So that kind of sounds like the institutional capital, the investors you were talking about or were talking to were not really aware that Cosmos is going on or what we're building. So I guess that leads back to the marketing thing that we have been talking a long time. And I'm curious, who do you think should be doing this marketing for Cosmos?
Yeah, well, I think that community foundations such as like Interchain or All in Bits need to hire marketing agencies. I actually come from the world of marketing myself. I did a lot of marketing for AAA video games in my past career. Now, definitely a different beast, but creating a 360 marketing campaign and sticking to that is something that I would like to see for Cosmos. We have the capital, it just isn't really executed as well. Now, and in the modern era, that could be very savvy. It can be targeted at crypto developers, or it can be, the target market could be wide investors. It's just define the target market. Let's go and start messaging to them. So I think that's the method I would go about. And then what agencies you hire is the next question. And do you want something like a WPP, like a big time expensive agency, or do you want something that's like small and independent and more interesting? And I would go towards looking at smaller independent agencies and hiring a number of them to do different tasks. So again, approach this like a multi-armed bandit, the way that Strangelove does. Let's take a bunch of different strategies for solving this problem and try and do all of them simultaneously. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Raul, do you have any more questions at this point?
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask about Juno. I don't know if you want
to. Sure, we can do Juno.
Okay,
let's go.
So my question is, as a fund, did the Juno whale drama have any influence on your willingness to invest in projects launching on Juno? And something we talked to Jacob Gidikian, and he mentioned that Juno is truly permissionless, where you can deploy a smart contract without having to go through a governance proposal. The downside of that is you can have a lot of rug pulls and scams, right? So what's your thoughts on that? And do you see also a need for something like Juno, which is like, I look at it as like a testing ground, sort of like Kusama and Polkadot. Why would projects not want to just launch their own app chain right off the bat? Why would they want to come on Juno and build?
Because the developer tooling is already there.
Okay.
It's just easier to build on it. I like Juno. I think it's a community-driven project. I think that's a really interesting piece about it. We are still invested in Juno after the Prop 16 drama. That hasn't changed our position in any way. And we have been really interested and heavily debated the discourse that is currently going on with the Juno whale drama. And sure, there's like a prevalence of potential rugs and all these other things going on with Juno, but we see the core community as a strong voice that is speaking for itself, the community, and we want to facilitate that type of open discourse. So I thought the open discourse that happened during the whale drama was extremely interesting. We were able to crowdsource a lot of really interesting research on that situation and gain a greater understanding of what's going on through open community discourse. I thought that was a really interesting piece of that Juno drama. Now, something, the Prop 4 is another prop that I think should have been discussed even more heavily than Prop 16 was, but we don't need to go into that. With the whale drama, when you get into a situation where you've made a mistake and we've sent all of these airdropped funds to a intermediary like CCN is, it's the community decided to rectify that mistake. We have actually changed our vote based on information as this drama went out. We originally were a no, and we changed our vote to a yes on Prop 16, primarily because of the information that came to light through community research. So is this a strength? Well, looking at the drama, knowing that a mistake happened like this and knowing what was going on, I knew this was going to negatively impact the price. The question is how much and for how long, and then how are we invested in the token? So we're invested in the token for the long run. So we expect price volatility, and I expected the price to go down on news like this. I mean, how can it not, when it will scare off people from the ecosystem? I don't think that there's any way that it could not, but I think that Juno is going to come out of this healthier and stronger for rectifying that mistake and going through the process that they did.
So you
Excellent.
also don't see it as a investor or as a VC now as a problem, let's say, in investing in projects that are building on Juno. I heard some VCs that were like more in the direction of we're not really feeling secure putting money on the chain. If the community can just come and take it away if they don't like us anymore, you know. Do you think that's a concern?
Being closer to some of the discussions around this, I don't see a situation where our money would get rugged on a Juno chain. You know, that was a heavily debated and heavily discussed situation. So I don't necessarily see my funds being at risk. I'm also not a bad actor. So for me, it's not a concern.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions. So.
Awesome. So I guess then this is a good place to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Tyler. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about Strangelove, connect with you guys, learn more about what you're doing, what your opinions are, and so forth?
Yeah, well, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyler Schmidt with a DT. And if you want to know more about what we're doing, go to strangelove.ventures online, and you can find us on our Telegram channel, which you can access from our website. So pop into our Telegram, say hello, and we'll send you an emoji or something.
Awesome, awesome. And we're also linking all those links in the show notes as usual. So thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was very interesting and insightful. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot to us to have you all here on the podcast. So thank you so much for that. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, you know, all that good stuff. And as usual, if you want to reach out to us, to me, or to any guests on the podcast, you find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and now have a great time. See you next time.